So just wanted to say good afternoon and welcome. Really warm welcome to everyone for our first Mentor Deep Dive for 2023. I hope you've all had a really nice break and had some time to chill and relax and get ready for the brand new year. And I'm really excited to introduce you to Marianne Amies, who will be doing our digital marketing webinar today. Thanks for being here, Marianne.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks so much for asking me.
No worries. So I'll just start off, no matter where we are across Australia, we are on unceded First Nations ground. I'm calling in from Dharawal Nation, and I just want to acknowledge and pay my respect to the past, present and future traditional custodians of this land, and extend a special welcome to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who might be attending the webinar today. So thank you everyone for joining today. I normally run through a bit of information about Redbirds. We don't have as long as we're bringing the Mentor Deep Dives back, so I'm going to power through it. I really don't want to take up too much time. So for those who haven't met me, my name's Bethany Scott. I'm the Community Manager at Redbirds. So I've been here since July 2022. And my background is in human rights and social work, so I'm really excited to be part of this organisation, working towards equal opportunities and levelling the playing fields. And these webinars are a really key step in providing those opportunities for people to build their knowledge and their network. So thank you all for being here. It's really great to have you. At Redbirds, obviously, our mission is to create, support and promote diverse and inclusive workplaces where opportunities in entrepreneurship and leadership exist for everyone. And we've been around 7 years, and mentoring is probably our best known part of the Redbirds platform, but we also offer masterclasses such as these, networking opportunities. We do have an International Women's Day event coming up. I'm going to share that in the chat. Please come along. It's also a hybrid event, so if you can't be in Sydney, then come along online. But it's a breakfast and a panel discussion about how the future of tech is going to impact equality in the workplace. So I will share that online. If you are interested in joining us as a mentee, a mentor, or any part of our community, please get in touch with me at any time. I'm always here to chat with the community. Now, enough from me. I'm going to pass you over to Marianne. Marianne's from Wise Marketing, and she's running us through our digital marketing strategy for the year. So thanks for being here, Marianne.
Thank you.
I will let you take it away. We will have some Q&A time at the end. So everybody, please feel free to chat, to put questions in, to network and connect. I would monitor that chat and can push some of those questions through to Marianne. And if she has time throughout, she will get to those questions when possible. If not, we will have Q&A at the end. So please stick around for that, and also the survey, which will allow you to pop some possible future topics in there so that we can cover off exactly what you guys are after. So enough from me. Thanks, Marianne.
Thanks so much, Bethany. Hi, everyone. It's lovely to be here today. I'm Marianne Amies. I run a digital marketing agency called Wise Up Marketing. I've been running my agency for 13 years, so I like to think of myself as a bit of a veteran of digital marketing. I was obviously around when cat memes on Facebook were everything and ads were just a whisper. So it's been an amazing 13-year journey, always adapting and always learning, and seeing so many shifts in the industry, as well as so many new channels and tactics launching along the way. So today I am going to take you through the 5 steps to build an effective digital strategy. And, I preface this by saying that there are so many tactics and there are so many shiny objects in digital marketing. So it's really easy to get pulled in lots of different directions. Your digital marketing strategy becomes your guiding light. It shows you where to steer the ship. It helps you to, say no to shiny object syndrome and be really strategic. Digital marketing can sometimes be seen as fluffy, but it is really a strategic space, and improving your knowledge of not just strategy, but also, measuring performance, which I'll touch on as well today, is just, important skills to have in your toolkit to really make sure that you are building an effective strategy, but also continually learning from it and continually improving it. So today we're going to talk about building an ideal client profile, setting your goals, identifying your digital tactics, establishing content pillars, and of course, test, measuring, and growing. So we're going to kick off with building an ideal client profile, and we have a poll just going up now asking where you're at with your ideal client profile. Actually, I think I've pushed the wrong poll. Let me try that again. Sorry. There we go. So you haven't created it before, you've created it, but you don't use it, or you use it in all your planning. So while you're working through that poll, I'm going to get started on ideal client profile. So ideal client profiling, it has a lot of different names. You might hear it as your avatar, ideal client persona, ideal client profile. I mean, some people simply refer to it as their intended audience. Unlike generic marketing messages, when we have an ideal client persona built, we can make highly targeted marketing messages. And what this means is your consumer feels in total alignment. Now, you'd know this yourself. You might be looking for, say, an accountant, and you go onto LinkedIn and you start to read some posts that a particular accounting firm's putting up. And it feels like they're talking directly to you. You go, oh my gosh, that's me. Oh, that's what I'm doing. Oh, I don't understand that. And that pure alignment helps to establish trust and credibility. And before you know it, you're sold to. And that's what the beauty is of having the foundations in place of your ideal client. The other reason why being really clear on who you're talking to is that others get really clear about what you do and the sort of clients you want, and they can refer you easier. It's so much easier to refer a colleague or someone you might meet at a networking event if they've told you who their ideal client is, who they're looking to connect with, or if their digital content is so clear about who they're trying to connect with, that when somebody says, do you know a great photographer that specializes in branding in professional services, you go, oh my gosh, I know somebody, because it's so clear to me what your content is and who you're targeting. So just looking at the poll there, I can see about 50% haven't created it before, and 20%, have created it but don't use it. And then 30% use it in all their planning, which is amazing to hear. So I'm just going to give you a little overview of how my approach is to, building an ideal client profile. I love to make my ideal client profiles really visual. So I always, when I'm finished, add a picture that represents that. Again, a generic view of the person that I'm aiming for. I like to give them a name as well, and I like to sort of give them a one-liner. At the heart of the ideal client, we want to know who they are. So this is an expression of their common demographics and can include some psychographics too. So again, this all becomes what's relevant to your business, and it's also a generalization. I have a lot of clients that say to me, well, I target everybody. I could work with anybody. That may or may not be true, but what we want to find is the typical, most likely client that will easily do business with you or buy from you. So we might look at things like, are they single or are they married? Do they have children? Are they working? Are they working part-time? Are they working full-time? Are they, is their education, the education they had, is that relevant to your business? Their affluence, their, and then reaching into their psychographics, how they feel about, their family life, or how they feel about their money mindset, those sorts of things. Then we reach into our where. So where would we find this ideal client? And that can include psychographics as well. And it can be where they physically are, as well as where they are on social media or how they commute. So I can see my where and what is flipped around in this. So I'm so sorry about that. But with the where, it's, to me, I like to think where as in which social channel are they likely to be on. I like to think about how do they get to work, or, where do they travel around in their day? Because that could tell me where they're open to receive marketing messages or they're open to receive content. Are they social? Do they go to the gym? What does a typical day look like for them? And then we look at their wants and their needs. And I see the wants very much as outward facing. Your ideal client, if you thought about all the conversations you've had with clients or all the feedback you've got for your products that have been purchased, the wants will be very much what people say they loved about it or what they were looking for when they came to you. Whereas to me, needs can sometimes be more inward facing. They may be validation, they may be, emotional confidence. They may not be things I'm likely to tell you, but certainly over time, as you learn your ideal client, you start to learn more about what their underlying needs are that you can help with. So looking at an ideal client profile, this is one that we've used for a client at some point over the last 10 years. So, I have Sammy and she's juggling it all, and that's her picture. So I remember her by that headline and that picture. I look at her age. I look at where she's at her life stage. I look at, their disposable income. I can see that she, lives in a suburban home. She has a lot of the family load. She has a busy social life. She's active on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. What she wants is to improve herself. She wants harmony at home. She wants to develop her career. And then, her needs. So the thing she might not be saying is that, she does actually seek external validation from others that their family is, well-rounded. She wants to feel in control of her relationship. She wants to be seen and recognized by her husband as the backbone of the family. I think this was a service around, I think there was cards that improve family meal times. But you can see already when you have a clear profile of who you're talking to and what they want and what they need, you can already start to formulate the sort of messaging that will really resonate with this ideal client. You can identify where you should be trying to target them in their day and the sorts of ways that you might be able to appeal to their wants and needs, either through pain points or pleasure points. So it becomes really clear. The other thing it does for you is when somebody approaches you with a partnership or a collaboration or a sponsorship, you can sort of say, well, who does it target? Who do you reach? And if it's not this ideal client profile for you, you have a really beautiful checkpoint to work out, is this for me or is it not aligned to my business? And that's really great because especially as small business owners, sometimes we get asked all the time to partner or to sponsor or, those sorts of things. And here's a really easy way to determine if it's going to be valuable for you or not. So I'm going to move on, and I am going a little quick through this because we only have an hour and I have so much that I want to get through with you. So I'm going to move on to setting your goals. So if the first step of your digital marketing strategy is knowing who your best place to talk to and who you can, have the best solutions for, the second step that we take is setting our goals. Now, I'm sure you've all seen goal setting principles and smart setting of goals, a million times. It's just certainly not the first person to talk to you about that. But it's really critical in your digital marketing strategy that you have set your goals and you know what you're trying to achieve. Another place where I'm a little bit different to other people, and really it is through over a decade in digital, I don't tend to plan 12 months at a time. I tend to plan 6 months at a time. There's so much that changes in the digital landscape. There's so many products that launch. There's so many products that launch within existing products. Take Reels, for example. A year ago, 18 months ago, that came out of left field. And all of a sudden, all our strategy, all our tactics had to evolve if we wanted to leverage that. So I find 6 months to be a great amount of time for a digital strategy to be formulated. So making sure you have some goals in place. Now, those goals may be about, your plans to grow on a certain channel. They may be about leads. They may be about sales. They may be about growing your email list. It may be around awareness or traction, but having in place some really smart goals. So as you go along and execute this strategy, you're able to really check in and check your progress and see, how you're tracking towards those goals. So we want, as I touched on, with your ideal client in mind, we want to think about things like conversion targets, things like website performance, social platform growth, and email marketing growth. So moving on to content pillars, I'm going to attempt, or I might need your help, Bethany. Actually, Bethany, if you could push the poll for me, I'm going to, sorry, the poll, it's asked me. So there's a poll there now around your content planning. So do you take it day by day with the content that you push out? Are you not the person that manages it, or do you plan ahead and schedule it in? So I'll give you a little bit of time to answer that.
Marianne, can I jump in and ask a question that's been asked?
Sure.
Okay, so Heather Dish has asked if there's a difference when creating your ideal client profile when your focus is a B2B sale.
Understand. When I think about B2B, I like to think about my ideal client profile in terms of the decision maker or the typical decision maker of that B2B. Say, for example, if you're an audiovisual company and you're trying to work with other businesses that may need staging and event support, you're still going to need to get to the person. So your ideal client may not be as personal. It may be that you focus more at like where they are in their career. If that, the person that you're targeting is mid-management, things about how they need to sell it up the line, or if they're, senior management, how they need to justify their budget spend. So the factors become more about that person probably within their job role. But I certainly would still attempt or plan to form a broad generalization around the sort of person, the sort of decision maker. And I will say, I didn't touch on it before, but with ideal client, you may have two. One may not actually cover all that your business does. And, in B2B, often two might make sense because you might have someone at a lower end that might be the fact gatherer and how you can target them, but there might be someone at the upper end that is the decision maker and the way that you can target them as well.
Thanks, Marianne. It looks like I've closed off the polls with the approach to content planning. Around 50% are taking it day by day. 8% aren't managing that themselves, and 41% plan ahead and schedule in.
Beautiful. Thank you. I mean, obviously, it's not going to surprise you that I believe in planning ahead and scheduling it in. And taking it day by day is what happens to small business owners, owner-operated businesses that are starting up. And often what I find when people take it day by day is we tend to focus on our favorite topics. So we have our go-tos. What I tend to say to my clients is what happens is everything's going well and you're putting out content every so often, every couple of days, and you're doing really well. And then you get busy. And, maybe you're busy with client work, maybe you're busy with business development, maybe something happens in life. And all of a sudden, it's a week later and you realize, I haven't put anything up on socials. And you do what I term, you chuck something up. So, you just go, actually, everyone always loves when I post pictures of my product. I'm going to chuck that up. And, because we don't want to fall behind. And although that's great because then you're visible, what's missing is the strategy. And when we chuck things up or when we live day to day, we don't clearly talk about all the different things that we need to talk about to take our ideal client on a journey to conversion. We tend to focus on our favorites, our go-tos, and we lose that strategy and we become sporadic. And I mean, social media, which is just one element of digital marketing, social media accounts generally reward you for consistency. And, when you're not showing up regularly, you don't get those consistency rewards. And therefore, you'll find that your reach won't grow as quickly. Your engagement won't grow as quickly because you become quite sporadic. And then as less people can engage with your content, you get pushed further and further down the feed with the algorithms. So content planning and having a strategy around creating content ahead of time and scheduling in becomes your best friend, and you can become very efficient at creating content. So I'm just going to take you through a bit of a principle of content planning. And as part of your digital marketing strategy, identifying your content pillars will mean that your content planning across social media, website content, email marketing, even within your paid ad strategy or your SEO, depending what other pillars, tactics you choose to use, is going to underpin everything that you do. So why do we create content pillars? First of all, it becomes a template for a month of social content. It becomes a beautiful go-to that's strategic. When you have content pillars in place, I believe most business owners can create a month worth of content in about 4 to 5 hours. You then have strategic content that draws on your content pillars, and it also speaks directly to your target market. So in terms of creating effective digital marketing, you now have strategic targeted content rather than sort of knee-jerk or last-minute content that doesn't talk about the breadth. So, what do content pillars involve? So depending on your ideal client and your goals and your business, the types of broad areas that may become your content pillars are personal stories. So especially again in the small business space, the story or the connection that you can build as a person within your business, to me, is actually the biggest competitive advantage that small business has over bigger brands. Over the years especially in the product space, so many beautiful creators have complained about, Kmart ripping off their design or their product. And, Kmart is an absolute juggernaut. And, if they rip something off and they make it cheaper, yes, there's a segment that's going to buy that. But if you've had a personal connection to your audience, there's a segment that's so engaged with you and they're on a journey with you that they're going to retain that loyalty to you. Even within, professional services businesses, being able to share the personal story, how you personally help people, what your team culture's like, what you're passionate about, the impact you're trying to make. That is so enriching. And for your ideal client, that bonds them to you with trust and credibility to make them want to work with you. As I said before, to have that easily sold to feeling. So a content pillar of personal story is so engaging. And, the way that social media and content has gone and is going, video is a massive part of that. And so many people aren't, I guess, confident or thrilled at the thought of having to turn up and show their face on social media and talk to camera and all those things. But, looking for ways that you're comfortable with to show your face within your content and to build a personal connection is a wonderful content pillar that really, for most businesses, will increase that engagement and that loyalty. Another easy content pillar is educational. So within most businesses, we have tips, we have advice, we have hacks. Sharing that within your content, making that a content pillar, means that, routinely you're sharing your expertise, you're giving that value add, you're showing people exactly the knowledge that you have so that they want to seek you out for further help. Or again, within a product business, you're showcasing what your product does or different, ways you can enrich their life. Testimonials and reviews. I think more and more, especially throughout the digital age, that power of testimony, that power of review is undeniable. So having that as a content pillar, making sure you're sharing that beautiful product feedback, that amazing client feedback that you get on email, even, pushing your clients to send you videos giving you that feedback. That's a great content pillar. Inspiration. Now, sometimes we can say inspiration as a content pillar is what we call a filler post. So, it has a beautiful place, especially more towards Facebook and Instagram than, say, LinkedIn. But those filler posts, that inspiration is creating more warmth. And it can sometimes be something that's easy for somebody to engage with. So if you're a swimwear business and now and then you share beautiful beaches and beautiful ocean baths, that's inspiration. Or if you're a builder and in between the posts of your work you show inspirational finishes and fixtures or inspirational bathrooms or kitchens, you're engaging your audience, you're allowing for an easy like or share on content, and that builds future engagement because every post that goes well sort of gives love to the next post that comes after it. Quotes are a little bit the same. So funny quotes, relatable quotes, inspirational quotes, very much a content pillar that works like inspo or filler images. So creating different quotes, again, that are really easy engagement spikes for your business. Behind the scenes, people love behind the scenes content. They want to see that real what goes on, peel back, peek in, that sort of thing. So if you make anything, the behind the scenes of you making, producing, packing orders, that sort of content is loved. If you have a team, those birthdays, team celebrations, team outings, people just doing their own work. It's funny how time-lapse videos of people just, producing at a laptop is so engaged with. So again, thinking about your business type and your ideal client is behind the scenes a content pillar you can build. FAQs and Q&A, they have a bit of a relationship, obviously, but if you're always being asked the same sort of questions, FAQ posts are an amazing way that you can produce content that showcases, the answer and can help people with those questions that they're like, oh, I had that question and I never got around to asking. So again, building that trust, building that credibility. Another content pillar that, you would use sparingly is an engagement spike, being a competition or a giveaway. So sometimes we use those sorts of content pillars to build an email list, to build our own followers. We might collaborate with another party so that we share the competition or giveaway, therefore building each other's lists or followings out of the data that each of us has. So we sort of see that as a non-competitive, a complementary business, not competitive. So finding a business that, does something that ties in with your business where, someone wanting their services or products would also want yours. Call to action. So sometimes in our content, across, again, email, social, website, we forget to actually ask for the sale, or we forget to actually incite action, inspire conversion. So having a content pillar that's call to action is making sure that, once within your fortnight or once within your month, you're saying, hey, by the way, sign up here, or book a free discovery call, or buy now, or, those sorts of things. So looking at content pillars that are call to action helps to make sure we are strategically remembering to ask for that conversion. Content pillars about our products and services. It's amazing how we expect our ideal client, our social followers, our email subscribers to understand everything that we do and offer, when sometimes they don't. So again, if you're a business that has lots of different services, again, I think of an accounting practice and all the different sorts of services they offer, having a content pillar around those services, and once a fortnight breaking out a different service, estate planning, tax advice, when to become a company, those sorts of things. Educating on what those services are that you offer, make sure that people don't go elsewhere, that they stay with you, that they've built trust and credibility on, and they understand everything you have to offer. Obviously, blog posts, if you're creating blogs, you really need to ideally be pushing those back through your content. So if you've created a blog a content pillar would be on socials, encouraging people to go and read it. On your email, popping the blog in there and saying, just on our blog this week or this month. So again, a content pillar becomes around that. So that is a list where you pick and choose. So what it may end up looking like is, around 6 content pillars that you pick specifically for your business. So say, for example, your 6 are giveaway promotions, product showcases, product care and industry trends, behind the scenes, social proof and authority positioning. So that's where we do some of our personal brand, and teaser content. From these 6 content pillars, I can now pretty easily create a month's worth of content. So the way I like to think of it, say I'm going to post about 4 times a week, and I look at that month. I go, promotions. Am I going to do any giveaways or promotions this month? I'm going to do 1, so I could slot that in on a calendar. Product showcases. I really need to be doing these once a week. So then I go to my website and I look for 4 amazing products, or 4 products I don't talk about all the time, or 2 bestsellers and 2, stragglers. And I write a post about each, and I, maybe create an EDM that features them. Product care and industry trends. I create a carousel that talks about how to look after, let's say, swimwear, how to look after your swimwear after you swim in chlorine. And then I might take that and also make a blog out of it. Behind the scenes, I do a couple of videos of packing orders, or I do a couple of videos or a video deciding designs for next season and getting people to vote on it. And then, once a month or once a fortnight, I talk about, the great reviews and show that social proof, or I talk about the quality standards that we hold ourselves to. And then teaser content, if I have a new launch coming up, I'm going to have 1 post a week teasing that out. So your content pillars become your guiding light, and it becomes very easy when you have the structure of your content pillars that talk to your ideal client to each month build out a content plan across your social, across your email, across your website, across your blog, to make sure you're strategically talking about all the different touch points that are going to really help your ideal client go on this journey with you and, buy or inquire or book. I'm going to jump into now digital tactics. Oh, actually, I should ask, were there any questions, Bethany, on content pillars?
Not specifically. We have had a couple of questions just regarding kind of what platforms to be on, whether you want to just do that at the end or now. I'll leave it with you.
Beautiful. I'm actually going to jump into that during the tactics. So that's perfectly asked question. Thank you. So I love to talk about digital tactics because, as I touched on before, there's a real shiny object syndrome, and there's a lot of noise in digital marketing about what you should be doing. And every time Instagram changes something, or LinkedIn launches something, or a whole new platform launches like TikTok, we go a little, out of our minds trying to jump on it and do everything. And they're not strategies, they're tactics, they're channels. Doing a reel is a tactic to get engagement on Instagram. We need to obviously have our strategy in place. And that's what we've talked about so far this afternoon, is knowing who you're talking to, having clear goals, knowing the topics or the content pillars you plan to use to grow and convert. So then it's about what tactics do you use? And, there's so many digital touch points. Social media is just one of the many digital touch points that you can use. And for some of you, social media may not even fit your ideal client. So when we think about building out our strategy, we need to look at this 6-month plan. And firstly, and these are in alphabetical order, not priority order. But firstly, we might say advertising. Do I have the budget to do any paid advertising in this plan? Does it support my strategy? Is there an ideal client that I can't get to organically, or I'm not getting traction with organically, and I need to use paid ads to intercept and to show myself, prioritize my business. Am I launching something? Do I have a particular promotion? Is there a goal that would be supported by me running ads and intercepting that way? You look at your blog. I mean, if you have a website, I really encourage you to blog. It's a great content strategy. It, only builds on itself. It's on an owned platform, which is your website, not a social media platform that you don't own. And it often becomes the backbone to other digital touch points. So with your blog, looking at your content pillars and mapping out in your 6-month strategy, what blog am I going to write each month or each fortnight or each week? And how's that going to support my ideal client and my goals? Bloggers, influencers, if that's relevant to your business, you may look to map out, how am I going to use third parties, and what, product am I going to give them, or what content am I going to give them, what experience am I going to give them for them to then share on their platforms, and what does that look like? Collaborations. Is there an audience that somebody else has curated full of my ideal client, and is there a way I can collaborate with them? What value can I add them? What value can they bring to me? How can we come together to, make a training webinar, or create a product that's the best of both worlds, or create a promotion, a package, a competition, and mapping that out in your 6-month plan of what that looks like. Digital directories, again, is there an online directory that has curated your ideal client? Does it make sense for you to advertise in that? Does it make sense for you to be in their newsletter, or, pay to do a post on their social media? Google My Business. Google My Business has grown so much and has immense benefits. To me, that's a touch point that you can almost consider like a social media channel, and you should be checking in on every month, adding content, asking your clients to leave you reviews, and really build that out for your business. Your newsletter, again, you may or may not have a newsletter, but a newsletter is a great owned digital tactic. It's not a third party. You're not at the mercy of an algorithm. If you're writing a blog, newsletter is a great way to get that blog out to your audience. If you are having offers or promotions, if you're e-com, having a weekly newsletter with your products, or alternating a product focused newsletter with a content, value add, tips, life stories type of newsletter, can really keep you top of mind and allow from conversion. Podcast, if you're trying to build a personal brand, or be a voice of authority within your industry, a great digital touch point now is podcasting. And we've seen so many more business owners and coaches move into that podcasting arena, because the consumer, the ideal client, is listening to more and more podcasts. So there's a digital space there that there's opportunity to be a part of. Promotions. So when you're mapping out your promotions for the 6 months, you want to be looking at your own calendar. So what might be seasonal for you, what might work in with your goals, but you also want to look at the broader calendar. Is there a reason for you to do something around Easter? Is there something around Afterpay Day that you can, dovetail in? Is Black Friday a logical time for you to promote something? So mapping that out on a calendar allows you to make sure your other tactics are going to support that promotion and maximize it. Review sites. I obviously touched on reviews as a content pillar, but as you're building out your digital strategy, looking at review sites and thinking, what is my strategy? How am I going to continue to gather reviews? Where do I want them to be gathered online? Is it Google? Is it Facebook? If you're a tradie, is it one of the, more tradie focused websites? There's lots of different places for different industries. Again, who is your ideal client? Where do they read reviews? That can be beneficial. SEO, I've had many conversations in the last couple of weeks about SEO, and, SEO is a marathon. SEO is a focus we need to put down every single month. Blogs help with our SEO. Working with copywriters or content specialists can help as well, but making sure your website is continually being improved and optimized against the keywords that your ideal client is searching, and, you know, perhaps doing a course or working with an expert to understand SEO more. But that is a digital touch point that, you know, every day that you do SEO or every day that you focus on SEO, there's a future benefit for. Then social media, you know, as I touched on before, digital strategy, digital marketing, often we just think of social media. The question of what social media channels are you using, I'll touch on a little bit on the next slide, but, you know, it won't surprise you to hear me say it's, where is your ideal client? We have to get in the mindset of our ideal client, where they are, what they consume, as opposed to where we're comfortable or what we enjoy or don't enjoy. So many clients come to me and say, I hate social media, I don't use it. But it's sort of like, well, if your ideal client does, we need to find a way, you know, whether that's outsourcing, or, you know, whether that's you upskilling your confidence in it. If that's where your ideal client is, you would be, you know, it'd be remiss of you not to be there as well. So the different social media channels work differently for different ideal clients. And I can tell you, not everybody is on TikTok, and Facebook is not dead. We hear so much noise in the market. I always go to a site called Social Media Australia Statistics, and I use that site pretty much. I look at it every month, and it ranks Australian active users across each social media channel, because we often get served US data, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see channels grow. It's fascinating to see how small channels are versus how much noise they get in the market. And, you know, as somebody that manages social media strategy and oversees social media execution for, you know, many clients each month, I can tell you that Facebook still converts. Facebook still has a very active, engaged population. You just need to do the work to find out if that's where your ideal client is. And then the last digital touch point is web design. I'll start by saying, if you don't have a website, I encourage you to get any sort of website you possibly can in place. As I've touched on a little bit with some of the other touch points, website is an owned platform. You own your website. If Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, if they all shut down tomorrow, would you have an audience to speak to if you hadn't cultivated your website and possibly your own email list? So making sure that you have a website, that's your silent salesman, you know, that's working while you're sleeping, that is SEO optimized. And then within your digital strategy, you know, what needs to happen on your website within this 6 months? Is there a goal where it means you need to create some new website content? Or are you launching and you need to make sure you are, you know, there's someone supporting you to get your products and services up in time for launch? So just looking at how your website is going to support your goals as well. So in terms of, you know, what channel do I use? What we want to do is we want to think about our client, our ideal client, and then think about what channel matches them, and then the focus it's going to be for that ideal client. So Eliza in this example obviously is active on Facebook and Instagram, but we've identified she's more active on Instagram. So that becomes a primary strategic focus for us, for her. And then Facebook is a secondary. Whereas Tom, he's primarily on Facebook. So, you know, when we're planning our Facebook content, we want to make sure that we're talking more to Tom and then sometimes to Eliza. And then in our Instagram, we want our content to really be aligned with Eliza and really speak to her so that she feels, you know, she's in the right spot. She's following the right business. She's building her trust and credibility and is going to be ready to convert. All right. I'm about to move into one of my favorite parts of strategy. And we were going to pop a poll up about digital data. So I might just get you to start that one off, Bethany.
Marianne, while we wait, can I ask a really awesome question which has come in?
Yeah.
So Louise Rawlings has said, I'm building a brand that looks as good as the multi-million dollar brands, but should I be hesitant to look like a small business by posting kind of casual live on socials with her face talking about her brand?
It's a little bit hard to know without the context of what it is and who the ideal client profile is of it. But certainly from my experience, building that personal connection, unless your ideal client needs the legitimacy of believing you're a big multinational, I would expect the ideal client, your USP, your point of difference is going to be that you're that real person behind that brand, that you're perhaps more approachable, that you're perhaps more accessible, that you might be more flexible. What is it about those multinationals or that, multi-million business that might not suit that ideal client profile? And is there something within the personal brand, within you showing you growing it, you showing that you're behind it, that will actually align with them and make them want to do the business with you?
Okay, so thanks. Thanks for that. Your current poll, I was just watching it. Confidence with digital data, we've got 27% don't understand it, so aren't checking it. 46% check it but don't understand it, and 27% use it to drive their decision making.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay. I'm so passionate about digital data. I was in the accounting world for a few years before I started my marketing career, and I'm a numbers person, so I absolutely love it. And I guess my sort of little side mission is that business owners should understand their digital data with the same commitment we understand our P&L, and our balance sheet, our cash flow, because that digital data is so critical to know where we're heading. With any marketing plan, digital strategy, that we build, we really need to assess it. It's not a one and done. We don't put a strategy in place and walk away. I touched on earlier, about 6 months being when I love to come back and go again. And that's because so much changes, but it's also an amount of time where we can gather valuable data to make decisions and to check if we're on the right track. What I really encourage people to do is create for themselves a monthly marketing report so that each month they're looking at the same data and comparing it to the month before. When you do that, you do start to become a bit more confident and a bit more familiar with the data. And especially if you, get that support to break it down in the first instance to understand the key data points. For example, your website statistics. If you look at traffic, dwell time, bounce rate, so the traffic tells you how many people came, but the dwell time and bounce rate tells you how long they stayed or how, what percent left pretty much straight away. So when you start to, measure that month on month, you get a good feel of, are you bringing the right people to your site? Are you bringing enough people to your site? Once they get there, is it where they want to be? Is there a problem with your website? Is there a problem with your targeting? Looking at your conversions, whether, that's an inquiry, whether it's a sale, whether it's a phone call, how are they growing? And then I say the above by source. And what I mean by that is then breaking that data down into, well, what came from social and how did it behave? What came from SEO or organic and how did it behave? What came from email and how did it behave? You can then start to go, oh, this, social media that I put 90% of my time in actually only brings me 10% of my conversions. Whereas my emails that I put next to no time in, wow, they're bringing me 50%. What am I going to double down in the next 6 months? I'm going to double down in emails. So there's beautiful learnings when we measure and we can make informed decisions. social media, you know, the follower number, it's just interesting. I've never believed in getting caught up in the vanity metric of how many followers. I've always said, you know, the number of followers I want is the number of ideal clients that want to do business with me. I'm not so concerned in, you know, growing it beyond that. But, you know, tracking that can give you some insight into how well your social content is aligning with your ideal client. Tracking your engagement and reach. My favorite thing to do, actually, or the favorite part of reports that I get, is looking at top 5, bottom 5. So when you analyze top 5 posts and bottom 5 posts each month, you very clearly see what your clients want to see more of and what they want to see less of. And that can mean in your next 6 months, you might actually change your content pillars with those learnings. For your email, you want to look at the open rate. So what % of people actually open your email? It's concerning to know that about 20 to 30% is a good open rate. Whenever I tell clients that, they're like, oh, I thought it was terrible. Click-through rate, how many people actually open it and then take another action if you've given them an action to take? How does it convert? How is it growing? How many people are leaving it? And then with your paid ads, you know, your result based on objective. So, you know, if you boosted a post and the objective was engagement, you're not necessarily going to get sales out of that post. You can't say, oh, it didn't do good because we didn't sell anything. So you need to look at the objective you set and then measure the result based on that. Look at the cost per that result. Look at your return on actual spend. Look at your best ad, your worst ad, and again, analyze that. So setting up a bit of a, you know, if you run a CEO day, for example, making sure that 1 week of every month, your CEO day is devoted to your marketing report and having a look at how you're tracking, looking at the changes month on month. And certainly when you come to the end of that 6 months, looking at that consolidated data and making some really clear decisions about what you're going to do different in your next strategy. And then if you are managing it yourself, I also like a bit of a self check-in. So, you know, the numbers tell part of the story, but there's also, as I said, things come up, you get busy, life happens. You know, there's things that take you away from maybe the focus on your digital marketing that you wish you had. So it's really important each month to just sort of think, how consistent was I? How consistent was I in actually engaging on platforms? So if you're using different social media platforms, do you get on there and try to spark conversation? What surprised you this month? You know, oh, surprised. I thought that behind the scenes post would really resonate and nobody liked it. Or, you know, I was surprised this product I never talk about, I did a post and we sold out. What roadblocks did you hit? And how are you tackling them? So, you know, just having that opportunity to not just look at the data, but look at some of the other factors that may be behind why your digital strategy isn't executing the way that you wanted. Well, that was a lot to put into an hour. So I'd love to hear any other questions now in this sort of last 10 minutes that we've got.
Thanks so much. We have quite a few questions. I'm just going to push out our survey right now before we move into QA in case anybody has to rush back to work. So I'm just going to do that now. And then I'll move into our Q&A. That was so much information, but thank you. It's been such an informative session.
Thank you.
All right, so let's start with Anne-Marie Jonas has asked what your view is on free ads on Google My Business. She's also referenced an extension of that linking Google and Shopify, but understands if we don't kind of get to that much complexity in the question.
Okay. I'd probably need a bit more context about free ads via Google My Business. So Google My Business allows you to do posts, sort of like on social media. And I think they're valuable. If somebody searches, especially if you're a location-based business, those posts come up. It also allows you to build out products and services. And, you know, the map is prioritized over website listings as well. So if you can index in the map, you actually have really great real estate on the first page of Google. So I'm not too sure about free ads via Google My Business, but if you're talking about those posts, I would definitely be once a month looking at how you can add some new content.
Fantastic. Okay, another one for Rebecca Granger's asked, for a small scale business, what social media tool do you recommend that might be a bit easy on the budget? So she's got some examples. She might be using Blue Strawberry Radar, one that can generate analytics.
To be honest, if you're on a budget, some of the best analytics is in each individual channel. I mean, Instagram has amazing in-app analytics. Facebook has really good analytics. I love Google Analytics, and that can tell you more about what the traffic does when it comes from those platforms. If somebody mentioned Shopify before, I mean, Shopify has great analytics. I'm a massive believer of accessing those and maybe just making your own Excel template of how you're going to track that data and then just popping that in each month. I mean, for me, that's the best free way. In our agency, we obviously use agency-based software to build and manage, and that gives us reporting. So it's a little bit different. So I don't have a lot of experience with other tools.
Okay. Esther's asked, can these monthly reports be automatically sent or to us, or do we have to spend time creating them monthly?
Absolutely, with Google Analytics. So you can create reports in Analytics, and then you can actually set it up to email you each month. So you could definitely have that data. I'm pretty sure with some of the email marketing providers, you can do a similar thing. With the social media, again, you would need to go in or have someone go in, pull that data and put it into a report for you.
Okay. This might be a bit of a tricky one as a digital marketing topic. If your ideal clients are generally not social media savvy and traditional email is the approach, how best to get past the fact that you can't email them until they have subscribed to being emailed? How do you grow an audience that you would like to see but can't until they've expressed that?
No, absolutely. So obviously, I know that it's a small hit rate, but pop-ups on your website that give people a really strong reason to opt in. If they're likely to be members of professional associations, seeing if that professional association has an email and seeing if you can write a guest blog or if you can advertise and again, make the call to action, sign up to our newsletter, or if there's something you can give away. And again, as they enter in your T's and C's, you say, as part of entering this competition, you'll receive emails from us from which you can unsubscribe at any time. I'm thinking of all my non-social media based ideas here. Again, if you went on someone's podcast, that could be another opportunity for somebody that might not be on social media. But even looking at those, traditional medias, is it newspaper for this particular client? Is it or if we don't consider YouTube to be part of social media, is there YouTube ads? Are there Google ads that you could run? Are they likely to be Googling your service or solution or information around it? Is there a Google ad you could run that you run to really landing page, and as part of that you have join our email and really showing why, explaining to them the value, join our email as once a month we update you on the latest industry trends that impact, and have a statement that speaks directly to that ideal client. So making your email something they want to receive, making it very clear, I'm not just going to spam you with promotional messages each month. This is going to be your go-to digest that you'll be hanging to receive in your inbox.
Thanks, Marianne. I feel like we've kind of come to the end of the questions, and thank you all for your questions. I think they were really great, and there were a lot of double up. So I think you might have answered those for a lot of people across the cohort. Everybody, we will send through a copy of this whole webinar along with Marianne's details if you did have any follow-up questions. Thanks again for being here, everyone, and especially to you, Marianne, for kicking off our year.
Thanks so much for having me.
You are welcome. All right, guys, we'll see you next month for our vision and strategy webinar for those who are looking to look ahead this year. Can't wait to see you all then.